Who shot JR?
That was the question on everybody's minds in the fall of 1980. When season 4 premiered, it was actually the top ever watched show in history.
Even the Super Bowl.
It exceeded the ratings of the Super Bowl. Today we're going to show you the filming locations for season 4 of Dallas. Okay guys, so this is where they bring JR after he's been shot. He's on a stretcher, comes out of this elevator bank, around the corner, and out these doors.
When they wheel JR downstairs, they bring him out this door, and you're met with media, police, there's an ambulance out here, and Cliff Barnes is out there. We're at Presbyterian Hospital, but on the show, this was Dallas Memorial, and this is where JR was brought after he was shot. Season 4, Episode 1. Sue Ellen wakes up in a daze at DFW Airport with no recollection of what happened the night before.
This is the Terminal E parking structure. This is exactly where I'm standing, is where Sue Ellen's car would have been parked. There wasn't a parking structure before, it was just a parking lot. But we figured out which terminal it was after looking at lots of pictures. You can see the end of the terminal here by the highway. We're in the corner of Elm and Griffin, and right now behind us is the Homewood Suites, but it used to be a restaurant called Magoo's. In episode 4, this is where Sue Ellen has the flashback of what happened to her before she passed out at the airport.
She got a few two drinks here.
She was drinking at Magoo's at the bar.
Later in episode 6, Amos Krebs and Jock meet here, and this is where Amos Krebs reveals that Jock is actually Ray's dad.
Ooh, scandalous.
Behind me is the remnants of DaVinci's. All you can see is the concrete foundation. In episode 2, this is where Lucy goes with her friends, and she gets wasted, and she then tries to drive home, but luckily Mitch is a valet there. He intercepts her, puts her in a taxi, and sends her on her way.
In episode 3, when JR's in the hospital recovering from being shot, they used this office building for the exterior of the hospital. They put a sign here covering the address that said Dallas Memorial Hospital, but really it's just a random office building in Farmers Branch. Here we see Sue Ellen lovingly pushing JR in the wheelchair for a little walk from the hospital. She leans over to kiss him.
Sue Ellen, it's too hot for that. I'm gonna go get in the shade.
And then she takes him to the therapy pool, which is in a different location, which we're gonna show you next.
In episode 3, JR is recovering from his gunshot wound, and he is at the therapy pool, which is actually at the Sheraton Hotel by the Galleria. So let's go check out the therapy area, which was really the swimming pool. Now it's going to look a lot different because if you remember in the episode, it was actually covered and it had like wood plank flooring in there. Now it is open and it's all concrete.
So the Sheraton Dallas also provided production support for the Dallas series. So that probably means that some of the crew might have stayed here at some point and things like that. In episode 9, Dave Culver holds a fundraising event here in one of the banquet halls. Let's go and see if we can peek inside. Of Madison's restaurant. If you guys watch Dallas, of course you'll know Madison's restaurant was used a lot in this series, and I think they used the inside as well, but unfortunately that restaurant has been torn down. After it was Madison's, it was Cedars for a while, and then it was torn down, and a new restaurant has recently opened here called Luna Grill.
The building behind us was where Franklin Horner, the Ewing's banker, had his office.
But really, it's El Centro College, and my dad used to teach here.
This is Professor Forrester's house. Ray comes here looking for Lucy, but instead he finds out Professor Forrester's married. That dirty dog! After Ray finds out that Professor Forrester is married, he tells Lucy and she confronts him in episode 3 here on the steps at McFarlin Auditorium on SMU campus. In episode 4, Dave Culver gives a campaign speech here on the steps of the Owen Art Center.
This is where Cliff Barnes meets Donna for the first time.
And he also hits up Dave to be his campaign manager. Hey Abby, are you giving a campaign speech?
I'm here campaigning for your votes. I mean subscriptions. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
All right, Abby, we're coming up on Ray's house.
Okay, Ray and Donna's house looks very different. They've done a lot of work to it.
Lot different.
But here it is. Ray Krebs.
So Abby, what do you like about Ray Krebs' house?
Well, a lot of the scenes at Ray Krebs' house are him shirtless chopping wood, so there's some eye candy for the ladies. But I like Ray. I like the character. I really like him and Donna, and I think it's cool that they filmed out here. It's different than what I expected though, because I thought that it was a lot closer to Southfork. It looks like it's in the middle of the country, but y'all, it's really kind of not. Or I think the other houses have grown up around it.
Yeah, I think the town has grown up around Ray's house.
Okay, so let's show it one more time so you guys can see the changes.
So funny thing is, Ray showed up at home when we were out in front of their house.
Whoever owns the house, we're pretending it's Ray.
Yeah, they honked at us and said, get on your way.
Well, we were sort of blocking their driveway, so we had to move along, and we didn't get out of our car, but that was fun to see Ray's house. Welcome to the Fort Worth Stockyards. This is where Jock Ewing comes to buy and sell cattle.
In episode 6, Jock and Ray go to the Fort Worth Livestock Exchange where they run into their friends Punk and Pat.
We went inside the Fort Worth Livestock Exchange building, and it's actually just offices inside there. They really filmed this scene of the auction in the Cowtown Coliseum, which is next door.
That's what we call some movie magic. One thing I love about Jock was his one-liners, and he had a great one here. He tips over his beer can and goes, "Hey, I'm out. Let's go get some liquid. We can come back to these cows anytime."
And then they go to the White Elephant. We'll show you that next.
All right, so after Jock mentioned that they needed to go get some liquid refreshments, they headed over to the White Elephant.
And it's right here, y'all. Elephant Saloon, and we are sitting in the exact seats where Jock and the boys sat when they stopped here for a drink. How cool.
Starting in season 4, the boys did a lot of deals at the Cattlemen's Club.
This is the former site of the Cattlemen's Club. Unfortunately, it's no longer here. But we figured out where it was based on some of the buildings around here. And by the way, it's right around the corner from the Sheraton. In episode 8, it's very dramatic. Trouble at Ewing 23. A disgruntled ex-Ewing employee tries to bribe or blackmail Bobby. He wants $5 million and he demands it or he's gonna blow up the oil field.
So the ransom money was to be delivered by a Ewing jet to LaMesa Airfield, which is actually the Caddo Mills Municipal Airport. Bobby and Ray come flying up on the Jeep to in front of the hangar here. And then you have JR land in the company plane and he comes taxiing up right here.
So JR arrives in the jet about where that plane is, and he gets off the jet dramatically, but instead of bringing the $5 million as demanded, he brings the police. Crazy guy doesn't like that. Crazy guy pushes the button on the remote control and blows up the oil field. See this horizon line? They pretended like it was Ewing 23 just off in the distance, and using special effects, they made it look like it was totally blown up. But if you watch it by today's standards, the special effects are lacking, and it looks pretty fake. We found Ewing 23, guys.
It's at Fair Park.
Just kidding. This is the closest thing we could find to a real oil derrick, but as you can see, it's just for decoration. Whenever Pamela first sees her mom and meets her for the first time, the house is so gorgeous, it looks exactly the same, and they actually use the interiors to film as well.
Alright guys, there was a W on the door, so I want to go check to see if it's still there or not.
Okay.
So there's no longer a W on the door, but there is a P. And there was a P on the gate as well. So I'm assuming the owner's now last name begins with P.
I always thought it was funny that Rebecca Wentworth's mansion was the same house as the Waring's house. They both had W for their last name. I wonder if they happened to find a house with a W, or if they gave those characters W names because the house had a W on it. In the final episode of season 4, Kristin calls JR from an apartment in this building behind us and tries to extort him for money.
We all know how that works out for Kristin. Not too well.
She winds up dead in the Ewing pool. Of course, a lot of the show was filmed here in the exteriors of Southfork Ranch. We have a separate video about Southfork and all the previous seasons, so be sure and watch our playlist linked below. Thanks for watching.